My name is Mrs. Jager. The book I'm going to tell you about today is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. Here's what the book says about itself. Award-winning author Jacqueline Woodson shares her childhood growing up as an African American in the 1960s and 1970s. Touching and powerful, her story is both accessible and emotionally charged, each line a glimpse into a child's soul as she searches for her place in the world. This book is about growing up and discovering your identity and family relationships. I'm going to read a passage from page 72 for you today. South Carolina at war. Because we have a right, my grandfather tells us. We are sitting at his feet, and the story tonight is why people are marching all over the South. To walk and sit and dream wherever we want. First they brought us here. Then we worked for free. Then it was 1863, and we were supposed to be free, but we weren't. And that's why people are so mad. And it's true, we can't turn on the radio without hearing about the marching. We can't go to downtown Greenville without seeing the teenagers walking into stores, sitting where brown people still aren't allowed to sit, and getting carried out, their bodies limp, their faces calm. This is the way brown people have to fight, my grandfather says. You can't just put your fist up. You have to insist on something gently. Walk toward a thing slowly. But be ready to die, my grandfather says, for what is right. Be ready to die, my grandfather says, for everything you believe in. And none of us can imagine death, but we try to imagine it anyway. Even my mother joins the fight. When she thinks our grandfather isn't watching, she sneaks out to meet the cousins downtown. But just as she's stepping through the door, her good dress and gloves on, my grandmother says, "Now don't go getting arrested." And Mama sounds like a little girl when she says, "I won't." More than 100 years, my grandfather says, and we're still fighting for the free life we're supposed to be living. So there's a war going on in South Carolina, and even as we play and plant and preach and sleep, we are a part of it. Because you're colored, my grandfather says, and just as good and bright and beautiful and free as anybody. And nobody colored in the South is stopping, my grandfather says, until everybody knows what's true. I picked this passage because the author lived in South Carolina for part of her childhood, and these are the real stories she grew up with. I think people who like real stories about growing up should read this book, because Woodson's story is captivating, and it shows you what life was like in the South and in New York in the 60s and 70s through poetry. Thank you.